You're listening to Inside Eyes, and I'm your host, Laura Mae Northrup. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the final episode of the season. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm your host, Laura Mae Northrup. We are on episode 16 of season 2. And if you are starting the series for the first time on this episode, please note that the series is roughly designed to be listened to sequentially and as individual episodes. At times, there are topics covered in one episode and then expanded on in another. Essentially, a lot can be gathered by listening to the entire series in order. I encourage you to start with the first episode in this season entitled Welcome Magic. For anyone listening who may have questions related to the different issues and topics I'm covering this season, I want to let you know that I will be doing some free online live Q&A sessions. The dates for that are going out on my email list. And if you have enjoyed this series, a reminder, I teach classes, offer psychotherapy in person in Oakland, California, offer group and individual consultation to clinicians around the world, and run occasional retreats. If you are curious about my offerings, check out my website, lauramaenorthrup.com. It's in the show notes. If you want to hear about upcoming ways to work with me, including the dates of my upcoming Q&A sessions, you are welcome to join my email list. I only send a handful of emails a year, just to let you know when I am offering a new class or something special. I also humbly ask that you take a pause for a moment and rate the series on whatever podcasting app you use, and consider sharing this series with people who may benefit. It is a huge support to this work. I thank you deeply. And I'm not the most active on social media. I think it's not that good for our minds, and it is controlled and censored by capitalist elites. But if you want to find me out there, my IG is at Laura Mae Northrup, and that's May with an E. And if you've been listening since episode 1 of the season, you know that I wrote and published a book. But if you are tuning in for the first time, here's where I excitedly tell you that I wrote a book. It is called Radical Healership: How to Build a Values-Driven Healing Practice in a Profit-Driven World. This is a book that tackles what it means to be a healing practitioner surviving within capitalism, running a thriving practice, and the complexities that come with that. I often say that it is basically a self-help book for the helpers. It has a lot of practical information about how to run your practice. But what sets it apart from similarly oriented books is the anti-capitalist, politicized frame and the encouragement to think very deeply about what it is that you are actually doing with your life in the context of our times. You can find it anywhere books are sold, including ordering through an independent bookseller. It has some memoir elements as I share stories and wisdom from my own life. And if you get the audiobook, it is read by yours truly. I'm really delighted to be able to offer this piece of writing to you all. It is what I spent the lockdown portion of the COVID-19 pandemic doing. And seriously, I poured my heart, soul, tears, and years of my life into this book. It has already sold out of its first printing, and people seem to find it very useful. So if you like what you hear on my show, the same level of thoughtfulness, heart, and intention is waiting for you in that book. It is written for people who are considering becoming healing practitioners and people who already do that work but want to rethink how they are engaging with their practices. Again, it is called Radical Healership: How to Build a Values-Driven Healing Practice in a Profit-Driven World. And please note, although at the time of this recording, I am a licensed psychotherapist in the state of California, in the United States, this podcast is not therapy, it is not a substitute for therapy, and it is not advice attuned to your specific needs. So please seek out advice from a trained, competent practitioner about your specific situation to keep you as safe as possible before embarking on any healing with psychedelics or entheogens. I offer these insights in the spirit of harm reduction and education. And remember that there is sensitive content in these episodes that is not suitable for children. Okay, for this final installment of Inside Eyes, we are going to light a little candle because we are marking the end with a bit of fire. All right. The candle is lit. I want to talk a little about my process of making this series. In the first season of Inside Eyes, I never came out as a survivor. I think this is something people likely assumed, but at that point, I wasn't yet ready to have a public focus on that part of my identity in such a concrete way. However, through careful consideration, I started to understand that I needed to let survivors who listen to the show know that I speak to you from a place of shared experience, deep knowing, and embodiment. Everything I share in this series, I have walked the path, not only as a clinician providing survivors with support, but also as a person, out here figuring it out just like you. How I make work that is this heartfelt and vulnerable is through my own personal work. Writing and speaking about sexual violence as a survivor myself is challenging. It sometimes activates me to write and speak about something so painful and so personal. I sometimes end writing and become overwhelmed and need to stop or navigate my own impulses to dissociate. I know this is some of the cost of writing and simply a part of the healing, and I share it so you can have a window into the laboratory that this work emerges from. About a year into writing this series, I felt very stuck. I knew something was trying to be said, to come forth from me, but I felt blocked to determine what it was. I decided to enter into an expanded state and explore what was preventing me from moving forward. In that process, I pulled a card from Kim Kranz's archetype deck, which I'm a huge fan of. In her accompanying guidebook, her language is poetic and deep. I pulled the card Kairos, which is mythic time, synchronicity. Time is a burdened force for survivors. We want deeply to speed it up, to erase it, to forget it. We long for healing to go faster. And I longed for this work to be done faster. I sometimes fear how long my projects will take. And occasionally, I even ask myself, how much longer will I be writing about violence? And yet, I know this is part of my life's work, and to ignore it would not sit well with me either. About Kairos, Kim Kranz says, quote, "Time becomes a living thing that watches over us and tells us precisely when to speak or act. When this card appears, it is all about patience and precision. No clock can guide you. Wait for the rush of inner knowing, and not a moment longer." End quote. These are words that truly describe parts of my writing and healing process, and I share them as inspiration for yours. The pressures of capitalism urge us to race through things, but the wisdom of the heart takes the time it takes. On the topic of rushing in time, another part of working on this project has been changing my relationship to rest. I started writing this season when I was 40, and over the last 4 years, I can feel how my body is slowing a bit, and where I used to push through, I really just need sleep and downtime. Rest is something many survivors and many people in general struggle with. Hypervigilance can lead to not sleeping at night, as well as expending an excessive amount of energy while awake. PTSD can really destroy the capacity to rest. And we know that not resting is not great for our health. It depletes us physically and makes it harder for us to collectively react to the needs of our communities. I welcome you to consider what is going on in your own life around rest, and, if needed, bring that as an intention to your healing process. While I advocate for rigor and commitment to growth, there is room for rest within that. We can be deeply committed to change while we also take breaks, naps, and are gentle with our bodies, our hearts, and our minds. I will also add that I may not put out another season of this series, and that is because I'm focusing on rest and restoring myself in ways that I haven't in the past. In earlier parts of my life, I have not had the means, privilege, or capacity to slow myself down, but that is becoming more of a possibility, and it is definitely what the next year of my life is focused on. I've been thinking a lot about what feels important to share in the last episode, and one thing that I have spent a lot of time thinking about is how hard healing is, and thus, how many people get afraid or overwhelmed and don't do it. Healing is challenging. That is so true. But I want to leave you with a reminder of how incredible and joyful it can feel to do it. Let laughter be in your process too. Let levity in when you can. Take in the beauty of the day, not just the sorrow and the pain. This work of healing ourselves, while it may be hard, is answering the call of your soul. The cost to do it is great, but the cost of not doing it is even greater. And you are not alone. There are millions upon millions of people out here doing the work with you. I can say that sometimes in my own process, I have said I was giving up, announced my retirement from caring about myself, from doing a damn thing more. And that is okay to have those thoughts. I think they are likely just a need for rest, because every time I set it down, I have built up the capacity to do it some more. And my God, am I grateful for that. I enjoy my life so much more thoroughly now, and with a level of presence I had no idea was even possible. As a somatic therapist, I also have to give a little shout out to your body here in these final thoughts. Your body is the vessel through which you experience this world, this life. Having a body is vulnerable and amazing. Please take care of that body. Please be present for your body and the bodies of all the beings that we coexist alongside. Please feed yourself, rest yourself, nurture yourself. Let's let go of neglect and call in care. If you are doing expanded state work, you know this stuff is not easy on your physical body. Sometimes it is a trial and a marathon. Here is an invitation to respect the body that is doing so much transformation, loving it as it is, however it looks and feels, whatever level of health or illness you may be living with. I remind and invite you to honor this remarkable form you get to exist in. You can honor your body every day simply by taking a full and present breath. It takes a lot of courage to face pain, to stop escaping it, and really turn toward what we know has hurt us and ways that we know we have hurt others. And yet, it is the essential work of healing our communities, of honoring ourselves and protecting the people, plants, land, and animals we love. All the beings need us to find that courage. Many people struggle to stay on this path, and if you are struggling with that, may you start right where you are and seek out ways to be more courageous. Courage is something we can cultivate together. It is something we can provide the conditions for in our relationships with each other and with the land we live upon. We have more courage when we are loved by the people around us, when we are not facing shame and persecution in our intimate relationships. But even then, even if right now you are in unsafe relationships with yourself or others, or because of the larger systems of oppression we live within, even then, courage is out there and is something we can tap into. You can take a deep breath right into your heart and find it, because that is where it comes from. If you are kicking the can down the road, and the can here is doing your own healing work, there is wisdom in picking it up now, in knowing that each day, even a moment of courage, can go a long way. You don't need to overwhelm yourself with goals that will leave you discouraged or uninspired if they are not met. Let the cadence of your healing be realistic and manageable. Day by day, breath by breath, finding your way home. You may have noticed that I have not suggested going to law enforcement or reporting sexual violence to authorities at any point in this season. And I want to say a little something about that. I think at the point that this work is getting out into the world, there is a fairly high degree of not trusting the authorities to do much for survivors. But I will expound on that and say that I don't think law enforcement or governments are invested in ending sexual violence. Much of the sexual violence that happens is ignored or sometimes even condoned or perpetrated by government forces. But even with that knowledge, there can be a question of who to turn to in the face of violence and harm, especially if you live in a culture that has taught you to outsource your sense of warriorship to the government and police. As you may guess, based on what I have already said in this series, my stance is that we have to develop our ability to respond to and transform harm within ourselves and our communities. We are really all that we have in the end. Capitalist elites utilize us like objects. They are not invested in our well-being or in our needs at all. So I really mean that when I say, at the end of the day, we are all that we have. But that is not to say we are in a poverty of power, or that only having ourselves is somehow a dearth leaving us in great need. Because in fact, having each other is everything. But we need to lean all the way into it. We need communities that are strong, that know how to heal and know how to protect. And your healing, should you choose to embrace it at every level of your being, is a part of building a strong community. Even if you feel totally alone right now and have little faith, your healing matters in relationship to everyone around you, just as theirs matters to you. We need to heal the parts of ourselves that do not know how to protect, the parts that protect other people's feelings over our own bodily autonomy. There is wisdom in fawning or tend and befriend responses, because it can minimize the harm and the violence of whoever or whatever is threatening you, and that is very smart. But when it comes down to it, we cannot outsource our protection and power to those who use it to abuse and subjugate us. We need to put that power to work, defending ourselves and the earth. And this isn't just about responding to harm after it happens. This is about dismantling the systems inside and outside of ourselves that cause it in the first place. And the last thing I want to speak to before we end this series is the value of being present in our lives. Violence and trauma rob us of presence, which is not only a source of our power, of our awareness and knowing, but also a source of great joy. To be rested and take a moment to feel what is real, to step out of coping and the roller coaster of escaping ourselves, and rather surrender to awe, to really living this life, to laugh so hard it hurts, or feel the ease of simply waking to a new day. Presence delivers us to these places. Whatever the pace or route your path takes, I offer you this prayer in your journey. May you find the strength to care deeply for yourself and all beings around you. May you remember and honor the earth that is your home and the provider of sustenance. May the healing you need come to you when you are ready. May any fear be courageously encountered and simply be an experience on your path rather than the end of it. May the people around you love you enough and you them. May you find a sense of peace in this lifetime. No matter how despairing life may seem, remember that each of us can be a steward of truth and love. Each day you get to choose that. And while it may seem your impact is small, perhaps just the people in close proximity, that is something we can collectively hold among all humans, being stewards of truth and love. The divine is unbreakable. You can remember that and live it every day. Okay, folks, I'm going to read a poem to end. Thank you for being on this journey with me. I wrote this poem while doing a queer artist residency in Woodbury, Tennessee at the Chinkapin Craftsstead, which is a lovely place to be creative if you are an artist and want to apply. The poem is called Chinkapin Oak. I get angsty about the meaning of life, holding myself to an unknowable standard. I worry I'm doing it wrong. Great Oak, I want to call you grandmother. I want to call you grandpapa. I feel small and inadequate in your presence. I want to bargain with your wisdom. A large branch, a tree trunk unto itself, broken off, leaving shards of wood stabbing the sky. Big bulbous growths, uneven and gnarled. The smooth cut of a saw. Some human felt the need to remove a part of you. Could have been surgery, could have been careless disregard. A branch becomes a log. You have lived, and my eyes see a truth, the one where you do the most with what you've got and surrender to what you don't. I argue you. Can't I be the one to be spared? The wisdom without the suffering, the peace without the war. I fear my own ugliness and that of those around me. Benji says the trail of tears walked right here, already 200 years old then. You are powerful and limited, giving food and shade and care, yet unable to give freedom. Did you torment then, as we do now? Or do you not fear death and cruelty, accepting the greatness of pain and the profundity of love with the same open hands? Do you get entitled like I do, an infant demanding to be cradled, wishing for it to be different? Or were you grown as a sapling, thirsting and waiting patiently for the rains, knowing, for 400 years, that they have always come? All right, it's time to blow out our candle. Okay, my loves, thank you again for listening and being on this journey with me. And thank you so much to the following people for supporting this series as it was being made. I have to give a few major shout outs. First of all, thank you to all the survivors who did interviews in the first series. You all have inspired so many people, and your presence in the first season is what led to the creation of the second. To the 68 people who donated to the fundraiser for an audio engineer, y'all, thank you. I seriously could not have produced this season without your generosity. To Asher Outre, who has read so much of my work, supported me through life for the last 22 years, challenges me to be the most honest version of myself, and really has made this series stronger with their insights. Thank you. Seriously, I needed you to make it through this. To Leah Friedwoman, my colleague and friend who has cheered me on throughout this series, reading and offering feedback, helping to steward this to the end with me, thank you for your ongoing support with this series and much more. To Felipe Citrine, I just want to say, feminist film fort forever. Thank you for being a person I can always confide in. In many ways, this series is just a continuation of the work we were doing 20 years ago. And thank you to all the other readers, Caitlin Doherty, Shay Shay, Daniel C., Rebecca Love, and Jennifer Patterson. Thanks to Claire Schmidt, Yerlix Estrada, and Pike Long for sharing your expertise to make the drug testing section accurate. Thank you to Candace Olgasby Adepoju and Didi Goldpaw for being alongside me in this work and inspiring me to be brave. Didi, thank you for our conversations that have shaped my thinking and helped me along the way in making this series. Shanna Butler, Tessa Levine, Britta Love, Aize Jama Everett, Megan Milks, Juliana Mulligan, and Nakaya, thank you for light reading, writing advice, good talks, space holding, and deeply inspiring me. Britta and Alex Love, thanks for hosting me as I worked on this project, feeding me, taking walks, and generally just diving into the writing process with me. Chinkapin Crafstead and Dashboard, thank you for hosting me on a residency where I mostly wrote poetry, but also worked on some of the writing for this series, got to stare up at the stars over Tennessee, and take breaks watching deer and vultures, not to mention waking up to dozens of sheep baaing. Thank you to the audio engineer, James Ward, and Live Oak Studios, where this season was recorded and edited. Thank you to my therapist. Good Lord, where would I be without you? Thank you to the plants, Granny, Noya Rao, Oak, Bobenzana, and the beloved Rose. And last, but certainly not least, thank you to my beloved familiar, Queen. Okay, y'all, have a blessed day.